Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And going back into EX2 of the current Beatdown Battle for the 4th anniversary, we already cleared it with the Mills and Veldora and other kind of team, plus Scourge Wielder, the most recent meta. And now we get to use some older water teams that may work for you in case you don't have any of the Veldora or Mills units. And you can still make some kind of substitutable option, and then one more team. So this is part 2, we have 4 more teams, and then tomorrow I will have another 4 teams. And between 12 teams, and hopefully comments that have other people's teams, you can make something that works, unless you just lack the raw power. But, as a reminder, this is an AoE water stage, and if you are lacking an AoE water character, please remember that you can get a free Fount of Wisdom Rimuru from the EX character growth support quest. This is not very difficult. You get a free AoE physical water nuking character. So, keep in mind that all of the water nuking teams that I have today are gonna have this character, because he's literally free, and he's permanent. So if you're like, I don't have him, you're a liar. You just haven't done the stage yet. Alright, the first team is going to feature Commander Renard again. If you don't have him, you could use Spirit Master, Masked Hero, or another just stacking blue protector. But for this team build, we're going to use the Commander team. So we've got Commander Shizu and Hinata. We've got the Fount of Wisdom Rimuru that we talked about. And then we've got the free-to-play Rieger, because he's another orb changer and an alt-swapping character. You're going to need that. And you could use Visions of Coleus Blanc or Ogre's Pride Shuna or something if you want as well. And then we've got Warrior's Mind Guy. So to give the alt damage and the guaranteed crits, even though Hinata's already giving alt damage, it's fine. And then Fount of Wisdom Rimuru has the physical buff, which Commander Shizu doesn't give him, but Shizu does give him 70% EX alt damage. So actually we have two AoE characters in both Shizu and Rimuru. So in case you need extra damage, Shizu can back up. So turn 1, you could use Hinata's orb change and give you the multi-hit, but we're going to use Guy's because he gives the gauge increase. That's a bit more important. And then we'll bring in Rimuru and Shizu. Hinata has turn 2 protection gauge, so that's why we left her up front. But, you know, this is just a very standard 8-turn stacking blue team. You want to get EX alts with both Shizu and Rimuru, and then on turn 8, you nuke. And there are turns where you're going to be locked and binded. If you don't have access to the Veldora Heartscape, it's not that big of a deal. So here, we're going to use Rieger to convert, but I don't have enough points to do anything else, because I'm assuming that your Rimuru is not skill fused and cannot convert greens, so we're just going to not use him to do that. And we're just going to send the 5 blue orbs here. Thankfully, most of them are Rimuru orbs, so he's getting a little bit extra gauge here and there. And now, we have kind of an unfortunate hand, but we also have 2 orb changers that can do this. So let's go ahead and bring in Guy, who changes 2 greens and an orange. And then we have Hinata, who changes 2 greens and an orange. And also has the multi-hits. I mean, that's just kind of icing on top of the cake. But we'll start spreading the damage out a little bit. The multi-hits just don't do a lot of damage. They're guarding all these, and we're not doing that much damage to begin with. This hand is good, because now we have access to Shizu's full orange convert. So the only thing we need to do here is use Shizu and use Hinata. And we don't need to care about the bind, because we're not swapping characters out. Alright, so double stacks of Renard. He is stacking Weakness Strike up and Alt Resistance down. So the Weakness Strike only applies to Rimuru, because he's the only water character. But the Alt Resistance down applies to everyone, because everyone's going to ult, ideally. So Rimuru's getting the full benefits. Shizu's only getting 1. If you need a second or a third alt, I mean, you could go with Hinata since she's type neutral, but she's light and single target. So she's not going to do the same amount of damage, and she's definitely not going to kill everyone in one hit. So let's bring Rieger into alt swap. Let's do the stacks. Let's send these orbs. We're on turn 5 now. Well, we'll bring Guy in because he's got protection gauge on turn 6, which we don't need because we're already capped out again. So, I mean, Guy, not really necessary. We already have orb changers here. You could bring someone else that has alt damage or crit. You could bring the old Masked Hero if you wanted to. Shizu, because she's going to get the physical buff, and the EX alt damage and the alt damage from Hinata is going to do a lot of damage here. So, if you don't have Shizu and you only have Rimuru, not that big of a deal. Maybe bring some other kind of character that can convert and also give Rimuru some sort of damage buff. Shizu, again, not giving the 100% buff to Rimuru because he's not on Commander or Heart of a Hero, but is giving the 70% EX alt damage. So if you have someone like Spirit Master Leon, that's going to work really, really well because alt and EX alt damage is great. If you have Fern, that'll work too. There's a number of different characters you could bring here. But here, I want to use Hinata's alt swap or orb change, so we're going to use the Heartscape to unbind ourselves, or we could use Guy, one of the two. And then this is turn 7. So next turn, we just want to make sure that we have an EX alt with Rimuru, and we have a normal alt with Shizu. So, not the perfect run, but Rimuru's going to kill by himself, so it's not that important. So Guy is going to give normal alt damage to everyone and guaranteed crits to physical allies, which we are physical up here. Fount of Wisdom Rimuru is going to give everyone the 80% physical buff and the debuff, because he's skill fused. And Shizu has the 100% physical buff for herself, and then EX alt damage for Rimuru. So 1-2, I guess we could convert here for funsies onesies, because we have the points for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and Rimuru does 2.3 million damage, which is a whole fuck ton more than what they have. So you very obviously do not need as much damage support to get this job done, because they only have 400,000 HP or something like that. We did triple the amount of that, quadruple that, so you can afford to lose some damage. And we didn't even use Hinata's damage buff. Like, we just used her for orb changing, so you could bring another free-to-play orb changer if you want. Alright, next blue stacking team, we're going even older with our protector, and that is Fount of Wisdom Diablo, who was the very first EX meta blue stacking protector. So he's not super great, but he will work. And he also is the leader for Fount of Wisdom Rimuru, not that it really matters. But now we have the free Fount of Wisdom Rimuru. We've got free-to-play Ramorous to be our turn 1 orb changer. We've got Warrior's Mind Violet for the converting for her and the crit damage alt resistance down. We've got Visions of Coleus Blanc to be our alt swapping character and to give us weakness strike. Rimuru obviously AoE and has the physical buff, and then the OG Space Mass hero has the crit that will activate Violet's crit damage, and then also being AoE, and in my case, EX alt damage, means that she can also be a DPS unit if we need her to be. But this team plays pretty much the same as the Renard team that we just saw in the first clip. We just swapped out a bunch of characters, so if this works for you better than the Renard team, then certainly go at it. Or you could substitute some units from the Renard team onto this team. It really just matters that you have a blue stacking protector and you remember to bring Rimuru. Because apart from that, you could really use anybody. I mean, we only technically have, what, 3 orb changers on the team now, versus the Renard team, which had like 4 of them, maybe. So Rimuru can convert oranges if he's not skill fused, or he could convert 2 orbs of any color if he is fused, which is quite useful. But again, I think we're going to use him in a non-skill fused role, so we're only going to use him to convert oranges. So we can bring in Ramorous to convert that 1 green orb, because I don't want to swap Rimuru out. We're also going to use the Enamor skill from Ramorous, which is 15% extra alt gauge at the end of the turn for 2 turns. So we get free alt gauge for everybody, and if we apply it on multiple different characters, we can add to it. So if we have 2 Enamor effects, we get 30% for a couple of turns. And then you just keep doing that over and over and over, and it just ensures that you can get ults for whoever you need to on the front line. This hand, not super great. We can alt swap with Blanc. We're going to use the Heartscape to escape the bind, and then we can bring Violet in for Ramorous, who has all the green orbs, use the self-convert there, and now we can get some orbs for the hero in case you need a backup DPS character who's going to get pretty much everything that this team is offering, minus the weakness strike from Blanc, because the hero is space and not water. But we'll send this. This will get us started there. Blanc being the alt-swapping character is good, but again, you can bring free-to-play Rieger, you could bring Ogre's Pride, Shuna if you want. There are a number of characters who can get the job done. If you want to bring the new free-to-play Trishula, I mean, he can alt-swap at least Rimuru, because he alt-swaps water characters, and, you know, maybe you just hold on to the hero alt in the back or something, or you bring a second water character, and then you could just alt-swap those two permanently, and you get the combo edition skill, which could help in some turns where you're converting his ass, and you just want to send 4 blues instead of trying to convert another hand. That's always a possibility as well. As far as damage supports, you really can bring anyone crit focused, or just bring a whole lot of neutral buffs, alt and weakness strike, and alt resistance down, element damage. Just, you know, they're nerfing your Aegis, Pierce, and Synergy by 80%. So unless you have someone that's giving over like 100 plus, it's not really worth bringing them. So your 40% Synergy power from Exalted Champion Guy, not gonna cut it. Your 60% Pierce resistance down from Antagonist or World of Fantasy, or Wielder of Magic, not gonna cut it. You need to have enough to offset their nerf in order for you to do good damage. Otherwise, you're just hurting yourself. So we're on turn 6. The Enamor skill means that we have alts for a lot of people already, which is good, and we can get an EX alt with the Masked Hero here. Boom. And now on turn 7, like, we're capped out on points, we don't need to do anything. We're just going to send the 2 Blanc Orbs, and then we will buff on turn 8 and nuke with both AoE characters. So we can use the Blanc Weakness Strike after we use the 2 stacks of Diablo, who is stacking alt resistance down. He's also raising your skill cap, but only by 30 points every time you use him, not passively. So physical buff, weakness strike, and then we can bring Violet in for her buff, the crit damage for physical and alt resistance down, and then we can use the hero for crit, and we do 2.3 million damage again, and we still had the hero alt in the back pocket in case you lacked damage or something. So there's 2 different EX team options for you. Let's get poor now. Alright, if you gotta use this, then I feel real bad for you, but we are going super duper old school. Water 2.0 meta. This team, I shit you not, came out in late July of 2022. We aren't even using Fount of Wisdom Rimuru here, which is asinine. You should replace, probably Gobta. You should replace Gobta with Fount of Wisdom Rimuru or Hinata, one of the two. But if this is all you have to use, like you only have the OG old-ass Watermelon Protector that you got from like your tutorial multi or something, free-to-play Gobta, free-to-play Rimuru, Water Shion, Water Hinata, and Water Shuna, like if this is the best you can field, then you can still do it. It's just going to take some effort. It's not like the team operates any differently than the other two that we've already seen. Turn 1, where you could either convert or you could just send the 5 blues. It'll give you enough points, along with the traits from Shuna and Hinata, to convert on turn 2. Even without the traits, actually, you'd still have 50 skill points. So you could use the Shuna convert and the either Rimuru or Gobta convert. Doesn't really matter. Gobta's only here to be an alt-swapping character. If you have a better option than that, for the love of God, please use them instead. And Fount of Wisdom Rimuru can be your another converter as well, in case you don't need it. So, 6 blues for the next 7 turns. My Hinata is skill fused, which means that her second skill, which is the crit seal, also has 15% permanent alt damage attached to it, which goes up to 60%. So you gotta use it 4 times. Since this is a crit-focused stage, we don't need the seal on anybody, so you just want to use that skill as soon as you have enough points to every single turn. That way you have the permanent 15%. And if she's not skill-fused, you only get, I think, 5%, which means you gotta use that skill a fuck ton. So if she's not fused, and I don't really see a lot of players fusing her for this specific reason, then you just gotta use that skill, like, turn 3 onwards, or something like that, when you have the points, and pray you don't have to convert a lot. Or you just bring Fount of Wisdom Rimuru instead of Hinata, just straight up. That way you still have all your orb changers. Hinata is a single target DPS, which is cool. Shion is the AoE for this character, for this team, and you would really do better to have another AoE character, especially an EX alt one, because Rimuru would get all the buffs that this team is giving. Milim is stacking water attack, Rimuru is water, that'll work. He'll get the alt damage from Shuna. He'll get the crit and water attack from Shion. Just won't get the 10% magic attack that Shion gives because Rimuru's physical. That's about it. It's only 10%. It's not that big of a deal. So it's still going to run the same way as the Diablo and the Renard team. It's just horribly lacking in power. And we will see that when we get to the nuke turn, because we don't actually kill everyone on the nuke. So we got to go an extra turn. But, stacks of water attack from Milim are important. You want to make sure that your DPS characters are getting that. Unfortunately, Shion has an ult early, so we will stack this. We can use Gobta to ult swap away, but we don't need to because we have blue orbs, and Shion is just an old 5-star character. She doesn't get an EX ult, so there's no real benefit of leaving her up front except to get a water stack. But her damage is so ass that you're going to need the single targets anyways. So Shion can definitely cut into their HP on turn 8, but you're going to need some extra damage to follow up. So this turn, that is certainly a hand. So let's do the double green convert, boom boom, and then we can bring Shion in, or Shuna, one of the two, because they don't have orbs. And we can use the orange convert, use the next stack of the crit damage, or the alt damage, sorry, and then a stack of water attack for these characters, and then we'll go ahead and send this. Hinata is not an EX character, she doesn't need an EX alt, so she's ready to go. I would just like a Shuna alt here, which works because Isis converts us and we get 3 Shuna orbs, and we don't have to do anything at this point. Our buffs are cheap, we don't need to get any extra points. We'll save those 2 Milim stacks for Shion up front on turn 8. And then Gobta can go away. He has a lot of orbs, so we can bring Shion in successfully. Rimuru's not going to do anything for our damage. And we're going to have a almost full hand here anyways, so... Well, I guess we can convert. We've got the points for it. So boom, boom. Yeah, we've got enough points. 55-point skills, very cheap. It was big in 2022, early 2023, but nowadays not. We have skill points that cost double that. So let's do the double stack of Milim, and then we could use both Shion skills, Shuna's convert, and Hinata's personal attack and crit damage buff. And then we can nuke. We'll send Shion first, we'll send Hinata next. We want to make sure we kill Isis at least, because she has the heal. So 200k, Hinata, 625, that would have murdered on turn 1. 328, not quite enough to murder on turn 1 with Shuna, but it's okay. And Kyokyo has a nut tap of HP left. And because we killed Isis, he doesn't get healed. So now we can just send this other ult, and now he's dead. So even a team from 2022 can get this stage done. With gear and dupes, obviously. But, I mean, that goes to show that this stage is not very threatening. Alright, the final team I have for this video is yet another Fount of Wisdom Rimuru team, but we're going Green Orb now, with Velzard, who gives the element attack plus the Drago effect, which enhances buffs that we put on characters. We've got free-to-play Summer Ramorous to be our turn 1 converter. We've got Divine General Diablo, but only because I'm using him for the green buff. So if you want to bring free-to-play Isis or Exalted Champion Veldora, or the Danmachi Shuna, like that will work. We don't actually use the synergy buff on this team. And then we're going to bring, from the carryover from the last clip, Water Shion, Water Shuna, and now we're going to have them help Rimuru do damage. So, turn 1, we will use Ramorous Convert. We'll get 6 blues. That'll give us at least a double of Velzard right here. And the reason we have Diablo is because of the green buff. So 50% extra gauge increase on greens means that if we get a lot of Rimuru orbs, we can get his EX alt, and we can get a lot of points, and we can do some things. Now, because Diablo does do 100% synergy power, we can offset the debuff that they put on us by 20%. So we can get 20% synergy power, which I guess is cool. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but it also is a big time expensive skill, and this team, as it's built, can't really handle that plus 55 points across the board plus another 80 point skill from Rimuru. So you'd really need to alt rush Rimuru. You'd need his EX alt turn 3. You'd need rainbow orbs or something to make that really, really viable. But we're not really getting that here. So we're just not going to use it. And it's not a big deal. Like, would it help us? A little bit, yeah. But we can nuke this competently without Diablo's buff. We're just using him for the very cheap green buff, which, again, if you don't have Diablo, like you didn't pick him from the selector ticket or you didn't pull him from the 4th Annie tickets, you can just use a free-to-play character, and the buff will last even longer because it doesn't have any other strings attached. The multi-skill we don't truly need. Like, we're going to use it to get extra enamor on the characters so we can get double stack here, which is cool, but not exactly what I've considered necessary. Is if you get lucky with Rimuru orbs, you don't need to use all that enamor. You can just get the Rimuru ult and not worry about it. So turn 3, we're almost there. We're going to get a lot of gauge from those enamor stacks. And then turn 4, we can get his EX ult ready to go. Shuna, or not Shuna, but Xion has the EX or the ult in the back already, and that's just another AoE water character that we can not have to worry about. So let's use another green buff. Boom. We'll use Velzard to convert these orbs. You could either hold on to the Shuna ult or you could send it. It's really up to you. But we are going to hold the Rimuru ult, obviously. But we get the EX ult for Rimuru here. Turn 5 is where Velzard stops giving you skill points. Like, she'll give you them on turn 5, and then turn 6 you don't get any. So ideally, you want to get ready for this nuke on turn 5. But if you're not confident in your damage and you want to use the Diablo buff, you could use it now and send Rimuru away, and then just nuke on the next turn or something, as long as you can get enough points back. But here, we're going to use the alt buff and the physical buff with Rimuru. That's all the points we have. And then Velzard giving us the 50% water attack plus Drago means that we're going to do a lot of damage. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Rimuru does, or Xion, sorry, does 59k. Terrible. Rimuru 355. Good. Shuna is able to kill Isis, and then the rest of the orbs are able to kill everybody else here. Boom. There you go. So, I mean, we didn't even actually use any of the Xion buffs. Had we gotten Rimuru's EX ult a bit earlier, we could have maybe held the crit buff or something with Xion, and that would have helped out. The water attack buff from Xion we're already getting from Velzard, so we don't need to use that one. Or, like I said, you could use Diablo's synergy buff on a later turn. But there we have it. 4 more teams that you can use to clear EX2 of the Beatdown Battle for the 4th Annie. If you missed part 1, please watch that. That has the Veldora and Emil's units and another option for you. And then tomorrow we will have another 4 teams that can do this that have nothing to do with blue orbs generally. But if you've used something else, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, that's it from me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.